Good morning, Prof. How are you doing?
Good morning, Bibi. I'm good, thank you. How are you? Great weather, isn't it?
Good. Yes, it is. It is. I'm very well, thank you. I think yesterday was a little bit was gray. It wasn't. I think the sun was just didn't make up its
Well,
mind.
it's still playing hide and seek, but spring is firmly, around the corner, if not here already. And you know what? The clocks went forward today. So everybody's a little bit grumpy.
Our viewers, sorry. So if you feel like I'm just not on my A game, it's because I've just lost an hour's sleep. And I'm literally just still trying to get myself up. So bear with us today, please. Prof, honestly, it was painful. It's
always better in October, isn't it? When you gain an hour.
Yeah, when you gain that 1 hour, but to lose it just like that is just. But anyway, we're awake and we're on SonRise. So welcome everyone.
Welcome everybody. How are you today?
Oh, good. So, Prof, it's Sunday. It's a beautiful day. We were talking about this earlier last week in terms of, what should we discuss on this Sunday morning? And one of the things that actually jumped on us, for both of us, was identity and what it means to us. Because there are a lot of things that we all get involved with right now. There are a lot of things that we do. And when people ask you about your identity, first of all, the first thing that you probably think of is, it's like they want to see your name, your address, your all of those things. So I thought, let's discuss it. Let's just see what it means to us. And as always, I will start with a question. And Prof, you're not asking me a question. I am asking the question today. So viewers, please bear me witness, okay? So Prof, what does identity mean to you?
When we're talking this idea of identity, it's funny, right? Because a lot of our conversations, I'm not sure we plan it that way, but they end up turning out to be linked to each other one way or another.
True.
Why am I saying this? A couple of weeks ago, we were talking of, it was Mother's Day, right? And really, for many people, you can't talk of identity without talking of motherhood somehow or another in the equation. And even before then, we talked about social activism, and a lot of the activism is really around identity, right?
That's right.
A lot of it is around identity, how you see yourself. So in fact, before I go into that, because your question is, what do I see as identity? And I think in simple terms, it's how you see yourself or how other people see you, both really. Because I think identity goes both ways, right? That's why I like the way the French say, what's your name, right? So
how do they say it?
How do you call yourself? Come on.
Oh, really?
How do you call yourself?
So if I want to ask you, so what's your name? I'd say, how do you call yourself?
Comment t'appelles-tu? Oui. How do you call yourself?
No, don't speak French. Okay. It's okay. Yeah, that's fine. All right. Thank you. Let's go on.
But there's that recognition that there is a way. It's actually, there's a choice there, because you may have been given a name at birth, and then you decide
how do you see yourself?
So you see that there's that interplay of an identity that is given to you by somebody else, then an identity that you take up for yourself, and all of this is really around a lens, right? How the person is perceived, either by other people or by themselves. And some of the tensions we have in today's world is really that tension about how other people perceive you versus how you perceive yourself or how you want to be perceived. I mean, you can go on about it. I don't think we need to go into that much detail about it, but you don't need to think too far before you can see this whole idea of identity politics, as they say.
Do you think this has to do a lot more with one's name? If I say that my name is BB, well, that's my nickname, right? So, but if I say that my name is Bolanle, would you say that, I identify as Bolanle, or is that my identity, or does it have to do with who I am, like my how do I put it, like my abilities, or just explain it, because I'm trying to understand it, and I'm sure our viewers would as well, in terms of what identity means to us, not just our name, but is there something else?
Well, I think, right, over time, today's world is a little bit schizophrenic, if you ask me. And I'll explain what I mean. Because historically, all the things you were talking about were not different. That's why typically when you look at people's names, the names will tell you stuff about them, right? So Smith, right? It means that at some point in that person's history, their forebear was a blacksmith.
That's
right. Things like that. Or Smith, son of Smith, right? Sometimes it's that simple. And even historically, culturally, if you go back to our cultures, African cultures, many other countries, you look at the name and trace it backwards. Sometimes just by listening to a name, it will tell you the entire heritage of that person, because those things were not separate, right? The name was very intimately linked to what a person did, or their antecedents, or perhaps sometimes how their future would be seen. So in some cultures where you had this idea of people becoming born slaves to an idol, right? So in that case, their names will tell you about their, not just about their past, but about their future, right? So, and obviously, this schizophrenia, so to speak, that I used, is not completely a negative thing, because for people like that, imagine having a name that completely, damns your future because you can't break from it. So at some point, you need to be able to break from it. But it does mean that the question of identity becomes more pertinent in this age, because then how do people identify themselves? How do you decide who you really are in the context of all the change that has happened and that is theoretically possible?
So in a way then, when we talk about identity, we always feel it's something that, as you rightly said, maybe a name that you've been given from birth, and then you grow with that. But to me, it seems our identity changes as we go along in life, because for me personally, so if I were to take myself as an example now, I was born into a Muslim home. I've got a first Muslim name, right? And then I became a Christian. I took up my middle name as my first name. So would I say that my identity changed from there? Of course, at that time, I was more of, I was just myself. I was just doing whatever. But now I see myself as that outgoing kind of a girl. I am outspoken. I can do this. I can do that. But then again, when I think back to growing up as a child, as a young child, or as a teenager, some of these skills, I saw them in myself then, but I can literally say that my identity has changed over time. Is that something that we see that is prevalent everywhere now?
Well, maybe I think that, and what you've asked actually is you've identified one of the greatest sources of tension when it comes to identity. Is identity fixed or is it changeable? It depends on what side of, and unfortunately with most things in life, when people start to have these conversations, they don't always come from a place of honesty, right? Because when people have an agenda, then it determines what side they fall onto. Because think about it. If it's in someone's interest for identity to be fixed, then they would want to say it's fixed, right? Because then they can keep a particular person in a particular place. It doesn't matter how far you've come, what's changed. Well, this is remain that identity. It would be in that person's interest to keep it that way. On the other hand, however, if somebody has an agenda that demands that they be able to change their identity in order to perhaps break from something to do with the past and not necessarily in a positive way, then the person would argue that identity is fluid, right? And I'm sure that term, is something that comes up quite often nowadays when people talk about any sort of identity. They use the term fluidity. And I'm not sure either extreme is right. In fact, I'm pretty sure neither extreme is right. I think that with most things in life, as Pastor Mi would always say, there is always a balance.
That's right.
In certain contexts, there are certain types of identity that are fixed. That you can't, once that is stamped on you, that's it, right? Your DNA, no matter what you do, your DNA is going to be the same as it was when you were born. You can do a lot of superficial things. It doesn't change your DNA.
It doesn't change your DNA,
right? And to be fair, there are certain things you can do that could change the DNA in some aspects, okay? Because there's some sort of treatment and therapy that will change, but it will not change the entire DNA composition.
100%.
Not even 100% is huge, not even 0.1%. It's so tiny. So we can say your DNA can't change. So that's fixed. And things that come from that DNA, you won't be able to change. But then, like you said, if you come back to this question of how do you see yourself and how others see you? So we're talking of one thing that's absolute, we're talking of something that's tangible, factual. Then there's the other one that's perception-based. How do you see yourself? How do others see you? If identity in that regard were not changeable, maybe what would we do? It means that whatever it is that we were doing many years ago and how we're perceived many years ago, it doesn't matter how far we've come, we will still be seen the same way. We wouldn't be able to say, oh, I was once lost, now I'm found. You can't say that, because if identity cannot be changed, right? So it's got to be both. We've got to be able to accept both, but understand where each one plays a role.
Yeah. I mean, that, do you see this issue of identity? I think, to be fair, people will say to you, remember who you are. And then sometimes you ask yourself, okay, so who am I?
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Because like people will say, oh, but remember who you are. And then you're asking yourself, well, who am I?
The funny
2 years ago, I thought that I was a very shy person. Today, I am no shy at all. So who am I really? And that's where, for me, that's where the question is still.
Yeah, in fact, picking up from what you said, you said 2 years ago, I thought I was shy. Let's even forget shyness. 2 years ago, I thought a certain way about a certain matter. Since then, I've been exposed, I've been educated, and I've changed my mind.
Yeah.
Right? And now I think, so if you're trying to align my identity to what I thought 2 years ago, then, I find this point you made very interesting, because actually, if we go back to the matter of the US elections, that happened and all the drama around it.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw things like that. So you had situations where you had people who knew people, so let's say I knew you 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and you had a particular way you saw things. And then I haven't really been in touch with you. The you I know is the you of 20 years ago.
Of 20 years ago,
right?
Yeah.
And now, for you, it's ancient history. You don't even remember it. You've moved so far away, right? For good or for bad, but in this case, let's say for good. You've moved from the path, actually of being prejudiced or whatever, to being a part of actually now recognizing that there's no basis for things like that. But that's the you I've known, right? And then when this sort of thing comes, I see you and you say certain things. When I interpret what you've said, I'm not interpreting in the context of the you now. I'm interpreting in the context of the you I knew 20 years ago. And therein is the problem. The issue becomes the tension between how I'm seeing you, because I've put you in this particular box and I've identified you, labeled you, identified you as a person. Meanwhile, the way you actually then now identify yourself is different. If I had a chance to speak to you and you get some insight into how, but unfortunately, many times people never even get that far. They just decide that's the identity I've given you, and for whatever reason, I'm not willing to change it. And so anything you want to stick in that box.
So the case of identity is, for me, it's more of like something that is fluid, because as you come to a different level of awareness of yourself, you start to see things differently. You start to behave differently. It's like, for instance, remember those days when we say that, like people who have just become born again, that we call them SU, right? And they wouldn't wear trousers or wear makeup or anything. But all of a sudden, this sister, you see her like 5 years later, still born again, tongue speaking, very, very strong in the Lord, but now wearing trousers and making up a little and all of that. Then you start saying, oh, wow, is she backsliding or something, But that's from, sometimes we can even put this to unconscious bias, that we have about people, because we have kind of pegged them, we've boxed them into a little box. This is who you are. This is who I know you to be. And that's how you remain. So for me, I think from this conversation, all I can say is I'm picking it up as, if anyone asks me about identity, I would just say that, what do you see yourself as at today? Forget about what you saw yourself as 10 years ago or 15 years ago, because it is fluid. I hope you agree.
Well, 50%, yes. Because
Just
I think that
with me.
I agree with you, definitely. Yes, I agree with you. I'll just add a little bit there, because obviously this idea of fluidity underpins some of the ideologies that we see now that are shifting the horizons a little bit and creating chaos, I would say. I think that there are two aspects to identity. There is the fixed identity, and then there is what you might describe as fluid. Okay. Fixed identity is an identity that is formative. When you have an identity that is related to creation, okay, related to something that is fundamental and foundational, that's
like
not
the
going to
DNA.
change. Yeah, you don't build a foundation and then go ahead and then change. Once you change the foundation, you've changed the whole building. You can change, configuration of the rooms and so forth, right? So you see the example where in the Bible talks about how God said to the prophet, before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you.
Yeah.
And when Rebecca was having the pains of having children in her womb, and she didn't know what was going on, and the prophecy came to her and said, you have two nations within you, and the older will serve the younger. So you have these things that were almost kind of fixed identities. They were already established. However, when God encountered Jacob, what was it he asked him?
Yes.
So even within that context, God always gives us an opportunity to make a change where we otherwise, like I said, when we say, if any man be in Christ,
a new creature, yes.
All things have passed away and all things have. So there is
at that point, it could take a new name.
Yes. So, and we see examples of that. So I think that for me, there are two things. We have to make sure that we distinguish between the two of them and make sure we understand the differences, right? There is fixed identity. Otherwise, what we believe, like, man being made creating the image of God, and that cannot be changed, that's fixed. DNA, certain characteristics and traits that have to do with you, that's fixed, right? Somebody might take some cream or something to change their skin color, okay?
Yeah.
But that
doesn't make anything.
Doesn't exactly, right? You can do plastic surgery. It still doesn't change that identity. It doesn't change the fact that you have your roots, your ethnic roots are from a particular part of the world. That will not change regardless of what you do, because that's linked to DNA and some of those other things. However, the question of how do you see yourself, comment tu t'appelles? How do you call yourself? What is your name? That is subject to change. And we see that, in fact, we are encouraged within the scriptures and the context of the scripture, Christian walk, to move from glory to glory. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 18. That's how we're transformed. We are called to transform. We are called to aspire to a measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. And without that change, you would never get there. So I think that from a Christian perspective, we have those two things. The fixed identity, man made in the image of God, and the things that come with that, and you cannot change that. No matter how you treat that image of God, that will not change. But then the fluid one, that means that we're able to grow and mature and transform from glory to glory by the Spirit of God. Great.
Oh, wow.
I know the service is coming, so I will stop preaching.
I know you should stop preaching, because I don't know, maybe Pastor Timmy might let you just preach this, maybe today, just go on stage and preach for us. Guys, I think Prof has already started church. This is church already. So you can just be expectant of what is coming after this.
You say church, who do we have with Spotlight Minutes? Interesting, isn't it? We're gonna have a good time.
Yeah, we are, guys. Yeah.
Let's see who's coming.
Don't go anywhere though. When we come back, it will be our Spotlight Minute. So we'll see you in a few seconds. Hey, Minister Gozi. See, I'm calling you Minister. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Morning, Gozi. This is the person we're talking of. We said we had a surprise. There he is. Goz I am himself. Wonderful.
Man, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. Good to see you.
Good stuff. I think on that note, obviously, I think everybody that's watching this knows you. If they don't, well, they should go and Google you. They'll find out. But you're well known in this part of the world and in these circles. But let's find out something, just one thing about you that people that are watching may not actually know, and they probably can't find if they were to Google you. Just one thing.
The first instrument I learned to play was the clarinet.
Oh, Oh, really?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Wow.
So, do you still play it?
Wow.
Nope. No, I don't. I don't know if I could even set it up.
Oh,
No.
wow.
And how long ago was that?
Oh, okay. Now that's telling. Probably about 25 years ago.
Wow. Okay. So,
Wow.
yeah.
A lifetime ago.
Well, I mean, if anything, this just shows that you've been in music forever.
That is true. That
So,
is
Yes. Yes.
forever.
so that's good. That's really
Yeah.
good. Well done. Thank you for that. So we know that about you now. Anyways, it is Spotlight Minutes, and this is what you've joined us for. Thank you again for coming. Our record is 7 questions answered under 30 seconds. So you have to beat that. Well, I say you have to beat it. Well, I mean, if you want
You
to.
try.
Okay.
Anyways, as we always do, Prof will read out the questions to you, and I will tell you the timer will be on your screen. If you can't see it, don't worry about it. I'll tell you when to start and when to stop. And if you don't know any answer to a question, just say pass. As opposed to trying to wonder. Yeah.
Cool.
All right,
Yes,
Prof,
please.
are you ready?
Ready to go.
And Gozi, are you ready as well?
As ready as I can be.
All right, cool. Let's go for it then. So your time starts now.
If you could bring one musician back from the dead, who would it be?
Prince.
What skill do you wish you could master?
Psychology.
What was your first job?
Stacking shelves.
What's your favorite app?
Bible.
Your favorite superpower?
Kinetic.
If you could teach one subject in school, what would it be?
Mathematics.
What's your favorite board game?
Chess.
What's your favorite city?
Time up. Time up.
7. And you were almost at 8.
God.
Did you get
That
to
was
8?
7 questions. 7.
Did you get to 8? Just.
No, 7. 7.
You see,
Yes.
there were quite a couple of questions you hesitated. Otherwise, you would have hit 8.
No.
This is getting really exciting. I mean, the standard has just it's gone through the roof. Wow.
That was so close. You see, I was
Amazing.
like, oh, maybe just get another one. Get another one.
Yeah,
But
you
7,
were so
fantastic.
close.
That was good. Well done.
On the strength of that, though, I have to say, if you were to count the seconds of how close he was to getting question number 8, he's probably at the top of the leaderboard now. I mean, we're not counting fractions of questions, but that was so close.
I'll take whatever I can get, guys.
Oh, wow. Well done, Goziam.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. And we'll see you in service, okay?
Yes.
Take care. Thank you. Oh, wow. That was so good.
That was exciting. I thought he was going to do it.
I know.
Knocking on the door of 8. You know, this is what they say about London buses. You spend a long time waiting for a bus. And then we spent 3 months waiting for somebody to hit 5. And then in the last 3 weeks, they just came.
It's just coming.
Amazing.
But anyways, guys, please keep it coming. Keep it coming. We want that. We want everyone to keep it coming. It's good. Gozi, thank you so much. That was really good. Well, Mayowa, it seems you now have a partner in this, so you both can share the crown. So let's see who's going to take it off you guys.
I think somebody's going to take that crown.
For the time being. Okay. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us this morning. It has been fantastic. It is that time of service, and as always, Prof, please take us into service.
So thanks for staying with us. We are still on the matter of irresistible wisdom. Last week we heard about how God's wisdom can look like foolishness to men, but still it's wiser than man's wisdom. I wonder what Pastor Denise got for us this week. Well, can't wait to find out. See you on the other side as we join the service and we get even more wisdom. Enjoy the service. Bless you.
That's right, guys. See you soon. Thank you.